This movie is so fantastic.
Thank you.
I absolutely loved it, and
Thank you.
It was a very reflective experience for me. I think you do. I want to get into the details. So this is my problem. When I enjoy a film so much, I forget that I have a job to do and I have to actually.
No, I would rather you just compliment it and say that it meant something to you. That would be much better than answering questions. But that's very nice. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, no, truly. And it felt incredibly, I want to start with this. It felt incredibly honest, which I think is extremely to obtain in storytelling. And you did it so beautifully here. And I think it is a mark of great storytelling when something just feels so grounded in honesty. Can you talk about the role honesty played in your creative process with this one?
Yeah, I find it hard to like write anything that doesn't have like some kind of personal connection to my life. It's like even if I start to write something like plot driven, I always get to the end and I'm like, I didn't write about me this time. And then like, upon rereading something, I'm like, no, I did. But so for me, it's always important to have a personal connection to the story, if not the plot. Because for me, this isn't like a personal plot that is like a retelling, but the themes of PTSD and recovery are highly personal to my life and to my family. And so I think when you're starting from a place of like processing, like you can't really be dishonest about it. But I think tonally what I wanted to do with this film, sorry, that was a bit of a roundabout answer to get to the real answer, but I just felt like so many pieces, so much content, so much pop culture that deals with like trauma, especially women's trauma, and like recovery, it kind of is a bit dishonest in selling like what healing means or like what might lead to healing. And I find often stories about women's trauma are like revenge is like the answer or justice is the answer. And I just don't personally find that to be very honest. I think trauma stays with you your whole life and shapes every aspect of your life and all of your relationships in sometimes a very like slow and quiet way. So I just felt like that way of talking about recovery and all the ups and downs of it was just something that I was lacking when I watched things, even like as a viewer, but also as a creator. So I wanted to kind of, I guess, fill that void maybe.
Yeah. I could not agree more. I recently, like maybe a year ago, went through some turbulent times in my life and dealing with trauma. And, one of the things that really bothered me that I actually wrote like an op-ed about it just to get it out was that the lack of representation that I was seeing on screen that I could lean towards, that I could, to guide me in some sort of way, because I'm such a consumer of film and television. And it's really upsetting. And then when I watched your film, I was like, I felt so seen, even though my trauma was not the same as hers. It was so beautiful. And I just want to thank you for that, because it's so important. So thank you.
I think, like I just was like, I don't think we should forget about the people that people were before their trauma. Like, and I just like also wanted to say like joy and connection in the midst of it is like still possible and is, probably more of the key than like going on a revenge rampage.
I mean, also, I think like healing from trauma is not linear, and it's again that we are taught through what we consume, that there's some sort of like time limit or whatever on trauma, and there's no recipe for recovery. which I think is what you display so well here. Why was it important for you to sort of format the story in a way that amplifies the complexities and bewilderment of trauma?
Yeah, I think I wanted to do two things in terms of at least like the timeline being sort of a dual timeline. I wanted to showcase there's a lot of obviously there's a lot written about trauma by much smarter people than I, but something that exists in victims' brains and trauma victims' brains is like trauma capsules where they keep like rewinding and sort of revisiting the same moments and the same memories. And so I wanted to show this kind of back and forth of Sam's mind and sort of the way that revisiting is kind of keeping her very stagnant in her present. So I wanted to do that. And then I also wanted to do something where I wanted to kind of show how like if you give people with PTSD or like who are struggling with trauma a chance, like there might be this other person that's revealed like beneath that. And so I wanted to sort of start with Sam in a more kind of like passive and in some ways like unlikable and sort of difficult place, because you kind of are like, why just won't you go look for this girl, and why won't you help her family, and and then I wanted to reveal slowly like what has been taken away from the main character, I guess, and kind of go like, look who could have still been around if this thing hadn't happened, and this like one act of violence hadn't happened, like look who we lost, kind of. And I wanted to like reveal that part of the character later on, and like I wanted to sort of earn that. So does that answer your question? I don't know.
Yes. I mean, all these questions are kind of open-ended.
Okay. I'm like, is that what you mean? I don't know. My brain is fried. I've had a stopover in Vegas.
Well, that's what you did such a great job at. I think, like, yes, the actual format of the storytelling, but then also the ways in which, through her kind of characteristics and like character, it's also revealed that way as well. It's very effective. And I think too, what you sort of were just speaking to, like, I mean, oftentimes as women, our most beautiful and powerful characteristics and gifts are used against us primarily by cis white men, and leaving us fighting to like reclaim those gifts. And one of Sam's gifts is her comedy, and one of her joys of life is her comedy. It's a part of her. It's like it's like part of her. It's part of her soul. And can you speak on how Sam's assault like steals that joy from her? And it's like, it's heartbreaking, but then she sort of reclaims it in that sort of journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what violence does, right? It reclaims our ability to like find joy and connection, and I think that's something that's like not talked about enough. Like even like if you look at the comedy industry, like trauma has kept us away from so many funny women's voices who have been, like assaulted potentially even in the comedy industry. I thought there were a lot of like parallels to making Sam a comedian, in terms of like, that in fact unfortunately happening a lot in entertainment. But yeah, like I think that's the cruelest thing about violence against women, is it's like it takes away joy. It takes away our like ability to like give joy and connection to like the next generation of women. Like obviously I don't think it's too hard to like see in the film, like there is a metaphor there for like intergenerational trauma for women as well. So yeah, like I just think that's like the cruelest, sickest joke about being a woman in the world, is like those things can be like taken away from you so quickly and in like an instant, or in a summer, or in a year of your life, or like in a moment. So yeah, and I just wanted to show that like it is possible to get those parts of yourself back, or like return to those parts of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about.
Oh, and I also, sorry, just to say
please.
one last thing about the comedy angle. Like, her gift is like the thing that makes her magnetic and charming, and so vivacious. Like, the character, that's also very threatening to men. So like, I also wanted to play with that idea of like she's safe as long as she's not a threat. And like, I think a lot of the time women being very funny is seen as very threatening to men. So, and not understanding sort of the secret language of young women and between young women. And I think sometimes men feeling outside of that can be a very dangerous thing. So I also wanted to talk to that.
No, 100%. And also the fact that Sam's humor is observational, it's political, it's not, which you say in the film, it's not self-deprecating, and it does have a power to it. It has a weight to it. It's not only is she hilarious and witty, but her words carry weight. They carry power. They're yeah, it's brilliant. It's layers upon layers what you've done.
Thank you. It's an onion. Yeah, it's a Canadian onion.
Knives Out has nothing on the film.
That's the headline.
Exactly.
Everyone is very confused when they go to see my film because they're expecting something more similar to Glass Onion. Yeah.
It's a good kind of onion.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Sam and Brooke's relationship, because to me it's the heart of the film. It's the love story. What was the process like working with these two incredible women, Rachel and Olga, to find their connection? Because their chemistry was off the charts.
Yeah. It's like, I think, well, first of all, it like started with Rachel. We got Rachel on board and we're so thrilled. And she's just so, like, she's just like so full of life. Like, it's like, until you meet Rachel, like, I think you can see that in her characters, but she's just a joy. Like, she really is just a joy to be around. And but she also like is a very skilled technical actress. She's very natural, and she's very naturally comedic, and I think a lot of people have seen that side of her. But she's also like incredibly skilled as a dramatic actress. And so when we were looking for a Brooke, because we found our Sam first, we were trying to find someone who had that like magic combination that Rachel does, of like that natural, very like specific, like that specificity of voice, like feels like someone but then also like had the skill to like just like turn and go to those more difficult places. And we auditioned a lot of young women across Canada. We shot in Toronto, and Olga's tape just sort of stopped us all in our tracks. And I often say, like, when I'm giving advice about casting things, I'm like, if someone can change your idea of who the character is, like, if someone surprises you and you go, that's not what I thought Brooke was, but there she is, like, you shouldn't ignore that feeling. So we were pretty sure it was Olga, and we were down to like 2 or 3 teenagers, and we chemistry read them with Rachel, and just it was very clear that like Olga and Rachel were like, they were just in the same universe together. You were like, they're already in the universe of the film together. And it was over Zoom, and you could already feel that they felt like equals, because that was important too. Like, I think obviously Rachel's character starts with a lot of status in the beginning of the film, but I think Brooke really rises to kind of come back and point something out to her as well at the end of the film. So yeah, we needed someone that could also hold their own against Rachel, and Olga was incredible. And then it was just about like rehearsing a lot with them and making sure they were both like comfortable together, and establishing that early relationship, like where they are very close in the film, before we had to do all the terribly hard stuff.
Yeah. But and it's true, like Brooke challenges Sam, I think, in unexpected ways, and they challenge each other. And I think that it's one of these beautiful relationships, the way that it's written, the way that it's performed, where it's like family. It's like it feels like this instant familiar. I'm not explaining this very well, but it's like chemistry. It's the chemistry that they talk about that you can't necessarily even put a finger on it, but it's just there and it feels very familiar. They feel very familiar to each other. And then it's obviously heartbreaking what ensues. But then through that heartbreak is the hope and the rediscovery of joy that comes from it at the end, which is, I thought, was a beautiful arc. And what you've done, you haven't really removed the pain and the trauma, but you've given us hope, I think, at the end. And
I mean, I just, every day has both. Like, you know, it's just like, it's strange to me when things are like just pure devastation or like pure, I don't know, levity.
Exactly. It was so beautifully done. And final question, it's a really big one. I hope you're ready.
Okay.
We've been traveling all day, but Team Jacob or Team Edward?
Oh my God. It's, you know what? I work in London a lot and I love working with British actors. So yeah, I think the vampire for me. Yeah. Yeah. Is that an okay answer?
That's absolutely okay. I don't think there are any wrong answers. I mean, like, I'm married to Jacob, but I am Team Edward. So like, this is a hard, I have to struggle with this every day. Right?
It's tough. It's leaving a lot of young women very polarized. It's driving a wedge in between our communities. Yeah.
And it continues to do today. It's like, it's just so funny. This like resurgence of Twilight being like in the zeitgeist again is like,
I know. And it's weird because I started writing this film in 2013. So that's like, because so a lot of people are like, oh, it's like obviously a topical like Me Too story. And I'm like, no, it's like, no. I was like, violence against women is actually always topical, unfortunately, as we know. But yeah, I started writing it then, and it's been weird how much of the film though has become more timely, just weirdly not coincidence, but the Twilight thing, yes, by coincidence. Police violence, not by coincidence. That just is there. Yeah. So
that's funny. That's fun. Well, congratulations again. You, like I said, I hope you just like on Monday just celebrate yourself and like cheers to yourself, because it's a beautiful film. It truly, I was just saying to my husband the other day, I've been getting like watcher's fatigue, like I think,
sure.
Coming off of the festivals, like I think I like 20 films at Sundance, and I was like, and it is so rare to watch a movie that I'm just so enthralled and moved by. And that feels different, that feels grounded. It was just truly, I mean, I don't know, just congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. You make something in a vacuum for so long and then it's like so much, you're like, will people even, what is it? Like you just like, you have that doubt like every day. So thank you. That's very nice. That's very nice.
Of course. And it was such a pleasure chatting and meeting, and enjoy the festival.